Hi everybody, today I'm going to show you how to relace your corset hip ties if you have a corset that you want to change up the laces in it. For instance, you want to change from a ribbon to a cord or vice versa, or you want to change the color, or your laces broke on the hip for some reason and you need replacements. I'm going to show you a few different ways of relacing this depending on the technique that you like. What you aesthetically prefer and what you prefer comfort-wise. So because the hip ties don't have as much tension on them compared to the back of the corset, you can use single-phase satin ribbon and it's not likely to break unless you're putting a ton of pressure, but I usually don't recommend putting a lot of pressure over the hip bone anyways. In terms of the length of the laces you need, I prefer about 4 feet, 48 inches in length. If you want it a little bit shorter, you can go with a meter instead. That is, I think, 39 or 40 inches instead of 48. So the shorter laces that I have here, 48 inches long, I got this at Orchard Corset, and they have a ton of different colors of ribbons, and they always finish it with these nice neat aglets here. Or if you want to go to your local fabric or Nordstrom store like Fabricland or Joann's, you can probably buy ribbons on the roll and have it pre-cut to the length that you want. So the first method of lacing the hip ties I'm going to show you is what is normally used in the Orchard Corset hip tie corsets and also the longline Timeless Trends corsets. And when you're putting on hip ties, normally the ends of the laces are coming out the bottom and the bow is on the outside of the corset. So you know that this is going to have the ends of the ribbons coming up through this last set of grommets, which means this X is going to be under, over, under, and over. So you want the X being over here. So that means that at the very start on this top set of grommets, you want the ribbon coming out from underneath. And I'm holding the two ends together so that they remain even in length. Now, if you want to tie a little slip knot at the very center of the laces like I showed you in the last video, you can absolutely do that. But this is pretty short. It's short enough that it's probably not going to vary considerably in length when I'm tying it up anyways, so I'm just going to go ahead with it without tying the slip knot into it. Now, when you get to the underside of the corset, remember to cross your laces over again, like so, and then put it through. So you have an X underneath, and you have your X on top. And continue crossing over your laces so that you get X's on top and X's underneath. And now you can see that the ends come out through the bottom set of grommets, and then you can just tie it in a nice bow. And the nice thing about using this particular technique, which is also the usual technique for lacing the back of the corset in an off-the-rack corset, is that if you have hips that are slightly smaller than the corset itself, you can sort of fudge the measurements by overlapping the hip ties here and pulling this tighter than normal, like so. So if you look at it underneath here, you have an inch there and an inch there. So that means for each half of the corset, you're reducing the hip measurement by about 2 inches, or 4 inches total in the total hip measurement. So if you have a body type where your hips are a little bit more narrow than some other people, or if you happen to have a larger gap in the back of this corset, like 4 inches or so, and the hips are flaring on you a little bit, then you can tie the hip ties a little bit tighter so that it hugs your body a little bit better. And then as you're training down your waist and the gap in the back of the corset is closing more, then you can expand these hip ties to how the way they were originally drafted, or even wider than that if you need it. And the next hip tie lacing technique I'm going to show you is the Mystic City version. So once again, start with the center of the laces underneath the corset and the laces coming through the top set of grommets, coming up. And then you want to cross it and put the grommets, or put the laces down through the next set of grommets. So you have an X. Now, what's different this time is you want to cross the laces parallel and put it back through the same set of grommets that they came from. So it's double laced now. And then you cross over again and down so that you have an X on the front. In the back, you want to cross your laces again and put it through those same set of grommets. This uses up more length of your laces, by the way. Again, cross them and lace them on the lower set of grommets so it makes an X. Turn the corset over and lace it directly across. Now when you get to the very bottom set of grommets, you can do two things. You can do the same thing as before and lace an X, which means that the bow at the very bottom of the laces are going to be on the inside. So this can reduce bulk if you're wearing your corset underneath clothing, like that. But the thing about this is you may feel the bulk of the bow against your hip bone. So if you don't want that, and if you prefer to have the bow on the outside of the corset, then for this very last part, you do sort of the tennis shoe style lacing, or the chevron basket weave sort of lacing, where you bring it under and back up. It does end up giving you the bow on the outside of the corset, and the bulk of the bow sort of hides the fact that it looks a little bit different at the very bottom there. But let's say that you aesthetically prefer the look of the chevron lacing all the way down the hip tie. So to do this, once again, you start with the laces centered, and it's coming up through the first set of grommets here, and then you cross them. And every time you thread the laces through the grommets, you want to make sure it is coming up through the next set of grommets. You're still crossing, but you are always making sure that you are threading it from the bottom up instead of alternating up and down and up and down. I also have a system where I do the right lace first and then the left lace next, so that you can see how this one is slightly higher than that one. So you get that nice regular woven effect, as opposed to something that might look a little bit messier. So you can see how nice that looks. Now, if I were to do it the other way around, and let's say that I put this one over top of this one, you can see that those two are closer together and those two are further apart. And that's looking a little bit messier, like almost like you have a snaggletooth on your corset, if you like that metaphor. So I always make sure that I do the right side before the left side, or you can do the left side before the right side, just whatever you choose. Make sure that you're doing it the exact same way every time. And again, when you get to the bottom, you'll notice that the laces are coming up through the last set of grommets, so that your final bow will be on the outside of the corset. Now with this one, you will notice that you won't be able to cross over the laces very much at the very bottom, because the laces are weaving in and out in between this slit here. So I think this looks really nice when it is evenly closed like this, or even a little bit expanded. But if you do need your hip ties to sort of overlap a little bit at the bottom because your hips are a little bit more narrow, then you might want to choose one of the previous styles. Another cute method that you can use is loops all the way down. So if you remember that tutorial for the back of the corset, you lace it down through one set of grommets, and then underneath you cross it over and make an X on the underside. And again, you lace it directly down, and then you make a cross on the underside again. And I think this looks a little bit cute because it looks like it's almost, you know, stitched through the grommets here. And then you can have your bow on the outside. And if you are struggling with really short laces on your hip ties and you need to expand them a little bit wider, then this will actually help maximize the length of the laces, since it's not crossing over every single time. And the last method I'm going to show you is straight lacing, or bar lacing. So for this last one, instead of having the laces coming up through the first set of grommets, you want it so that it's going down through the first set of grommets, so that you have the laces going straight across that very first set on the outside. Then what you want to do is cross this down diagonally so that it looks like this, and then lace it straight across. Now you'll notice that this lace is a little bit shorter than this other lace. So when you go to make your next set of bar lacing, you want to bring it down to this next set of grommets here. And yes, it will look messy on the inside of the corset, but on the outside of the corset, it will actually look really nice and straight across every single time. So now you can see that one is longer than the other. So this is the one that I'm going to bring diagonally and down, and lace it across like so. And again, diagonally and down. And you can bring this one down as well to the other side, so that you can have your bow on the outside of the corset. And it will look like this. But if you do prefer to have your bow on the inside of the corset with this bar lacing, then you can simply take your longer lace, which happens to be this one here, bring this across, and then on the inside of the corset, your bow is going to be a little bit on an angle like so. It is going to look messier on the inside of the corset, but then on the outside, all you see are these cute laces going across. Now, another way that you can do this is utilizing the Mystic City method of lacing the hip ties, except you're reversing it so that you have all the X's on the underside, and then you are double lacing it on the outside so that you know, you're bringing both laces directly across and then bringing it diagonally down on the inside of the corset. So that way you're still getting the sort of bar lacing look, but you have both of the ribbons going directly across. So it will end up being sort of double thickness on the outside. So I hope you liked these different techniques of lacing up your hip ties, and you know, feel free to experiment with them and try out something new and fun and something completely crazy if you want to. If you have a particular favorite that I showed you today, leave me a comment down below and let me know what it is. And if you have any other techniques for lacing up your hip ties, then feel free to upload a video and show me how you do yours. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!